Really excited to speak to everyone today about EV charging. With that being said, I think we'll officially get started with our presentation. My name is Dominic Peters. I am an Energy Program Coordinator for Central Coast Community Energy. And on behalf of 3CE, I'd like to welcome you to Power Up Your Property, 3CE's Guide to Commercial EV Charging Infrastructure. All right, a few housekeeping items before we get started. If you haven't noticed already, this is a webinar recording. So if you need to hop off or you want to rewatch and maybe remember some of the information that we covered, all of this information will be recorded and will be posted on 3CE's YouTube channel following our presentation. You can also ask any question at any time in the chat. You should see the Q&A function. We do have staff on hand to be able to answer those questions as they come in. But if there are more complicated questions or maybe questions that might be relevant for the entirety of the webinar to see, we do have time for Q&A at the end of the presentation. And then if you also have questions post-webinar, please reach out to info@3ce.org. We'd be happy to help out in any way that we can. All right, so a brief agenda and overview for what we will be covering today. First, I will introduce our host for the afternoon. I will go over who 3CE is, as well as talk about our Electrify Your Ride rebates, which includes rebates for EV chargers and EV charger installations. We will then talk about the benefits of installing EV chargers on your property before getting to the nuts and bolts of the presentation, which is what you really need to know, what you need to consider to get your project done from start to finish. The good news with that is we have a free technical support program. It's our concierge service that can help you from start to finish, and we'll be talking about that as well. We'll then reference a business who is currently going through our concierge service to better understand what their journey looks like and hopefully compare it to what your needs are, and you can see yourself in their shoes moving forward. And then finally, as I mentioned before, if we have any leftover questions, we will have time for a Q&A at the end of the webinar. So we have some great speakers that I would love to talk about before we get to all of that. Here's who you will be hearing from today. As I mentioned before, my name is Dominic Peters. I'm an Energy Programs Coordinator for 3CE. I am joined by Paige Callahan, our Energy Programs Analyst and expert in all things transportation electrification. I'm also excited to announce Mary Savetin and Chris White from Frontier, who are our partners in our concierge service. I have nothing but good things to say about their expertise and their experience in getting these EV charger plans translated into actionable steps. So they will be part of the concierge service along with myself. They will be the people that you are talking to. They will be the people that is providing all the information you need to get your EV charger project off the ground. Before we get into EV charger stuff, I really would like to briefly chat about who 3CE is. If you don't know, 3CE is your local electricity provider. Local communities across the Central Coast established 3CE to source clean and renewable electricity at reasonable rates for customers throughout the Central Coast. As you can see by the graphic, we're the ones who procure energy on the Central Coast. PG&E's infrastructure delivers that energy to you, and that's how you turn on your lights. The cool thing about us is our revenue stays local. So because we have no investors or stakeholders, or shareholders, excuse me, we are able to fund very interesting and innovative energy programs, such as your Electrify Your Ride program, which you will be hearing a lot about today. Here's our service area. You might be a customer within our service area, maybe not. We like to think of every county as unique, and every county within our service area faces very unique problems, very unique issues, and has very unique priorities. But one thing that is consistent throughout the Central Coast and throughout our service area is that we have a need for more EV charger infrastructure. So our hope is that we can do that together with the help of 3CE and with people like you who are hopefully looking to implement and install EV charging infrastructure on your properties. So with all of that being said, I'd like to pass the mic to Paige, who will go into more detail on our Electrify Your Ride program.
Great. Thanks, Dominic. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here today. So as Dominic mentioned, 3CE reinvests in the communities that we serve in a variety of different programs that offer rebates and technical assistance to support the electrification transition. So first and foremost, we offer rebates in the ag electrification space. And this is for those qualified agricultural and business operations looking to electrify things like tractors, irrigation pumps, etc. We also offer rebates in the building electrification space for those homes and multifamily housing complexes that are looking to go all electric. Our newest area in the program space is energy optimization, which offers both a rebate for home batteries as well as a demand flexibility program called the Hourly Flex Pricing Pilot, which helps shift load away from high cost hours and into cheaper ones. But the final category that we offer and what we'll be talking mostly about today is our transportation electrification space, our flagship compartment of programs that offers both rebates and technical assistance to support you in your journey to electrification. Next slide, please. So kicking things off with our Electrify Your Ride commercial vehicle rebates. So we offer $2,000 per new battery electric vehicle up to $10,000. So if your business or property is looking for 5 new EVs, you can get rebated for all 5 pending final review eligibility. If you're looking for a used vehicle, we can offer you $1,000 per used vehicle up to $5,000 as well in a given fiscal year. And if you really want to be cool, you can receive $1,000 for a new electric motorcycle. And I just want to define really quickly when I say commercial entity, what does that mean? So it's basically anything that's not a home or a member agency, as we have different programs available to those entities. But if you're a CBO, a nonprofit, a business, or a public agency space, we'd be happy to fund your electrification projects through these programs. And with that, I'll jump to the next slide, please. Next up is our commercial EV readiness. So EV readiness offers panel upgrades, wiring, and the labor required to install EV panels and ensure EV chargers and ensure that you have the power you need to actually charge up your cars with your EV chargers. For multifamily housing incentives, we'll offer up to $10,000 for the installation and panel upgrades alone. And at commercial sites, you'll receive 75% of materials and labor costs up to $5,000 per site. Now, the neat thing about these programs is that we offer a 3 site maximum per entity per fiscal year. So if you're a company that has 3 different storefronts or 3 different areas you'd like to put chargers, as long as they have a different meter, you'd be eligible to electrify all 3. Next slide, please. And finally, on our commercial EV charger rebate. So this offers a rebate for the actual equipment itself. For multifamily housing, you can receive up to $10,000 for level 2 chargers, or if you'd like to go big, get up to $100,000 for those level 3 quicker DC fast chargers. On the commercial side of things, you'd be able to receive 75% of the cost for level 2 chargers up to $3,000. And again, this is a 3 site maximum. And similarly, on the multifamily side, you can receive up to $100,000 for a level 3 charger, and that would be 1 per fiscal year. Next slide, please. Now, before I dive into this technical assistance, I do want to note that all of those rebates that I just covered are served as post-purchase. So whenever your project is ready to go and you've completed it, you have the invoices, you apply, we'll review it, and send out a check to you. It's that easy. And of course, if you have questions and need support along the way of the journey, that's why we're here at this webinar, and that's why we partnered with Frontier Energy. So the Technical Assistance Program in Electrify Your Ride offers services such as an evaluation of your property, helping to design a charging station plan, helping you get bids from contractors and to better understand what price is reasonable and fair. They can also help guide you through construction and work with you to identify and apply for rebates such as the 3CE one. Next slide, please. Now, before I hand it over to the team at Frontier to explain a little bit more about what they do and dive into all those details, we first want to ask what brings you here today. So we're going to drop a poll in just a second, and we'd love for you to take a second to answer what is the main reason that you're here? Is it to learn about what an EV charger is, or you're ready to take that step and actually buy the equipment tomorrow? So please fill this out, and we'll get going with the rest of the presentation in a sec. hopefully we're seeing some responses come in. I can't see them, so.
Yeah, we have about 25 responses. Let's give another 20 seconds before moving on.
All right. Thank you for your answers, everyone. And with that, I will pass it off to Chris and Mary, our wonderful team and partners at Frontier, to dive into what they can offer you for completely free. Take it away.
Thanks so much. I'm Chris White, and I have been pleased to be working with 3CE now for a few years on doing this project. It's been great to meet a wide variety of businesses in the Central Coast area and really learn about what you're doing. So, of the customers that we've helped, and they range from private schools to multifamily properties to folks that are renovating or building new buildings. Why are they doing this? And what we've heard is it is quite a bit about attracting and retaining employees and tenants and building customer loyalty, bringing folks in. But we've also heard it is equally about having a reputation and showing that reputation for being clean, green, sustainable, and contributing to the future that we are all looking forward to. One of the big reasons, though, we hear about this, Dominic, next slide, please, is really about an opportunity to create revenue. A few years ago, just after the pandemic, MIT and UC Davis partnered together on a study to understand the effects of putting in level 2, that's the many-hour charging near businesses. What they found is that over the course of a year, businesses that were within about a half a mile of a charger saw a 1% increase in revenue. Businesses that were close to a point of interest, a tourist destination, a park, they actually saw a 4% rise. Now, that doesn't sound like a ton, but we took that number and ran with it and looked at places in particular that are tourist heavy, tourist dense, have restaurants, have hotels, have things to do and fun places to go, and extrapolated and said, if we could increase the number of people who visit a region because they have EV charging, what would be the ripple effect of businesses in the region? And that's what this kind of complicated chart is. And if you'd like to learn more about this and how we got to this number, we will be happy to share with you the link to the blog that really covers this more detail. But the bottom line is, can EV charging increase your revenue? Yes, it can. So let's now talk about, I'm going to switch it over to Mary and let her talk about how we get you started, and we're going to walk you through what we do with this program. Over to you, Mary.
Thanks, Chris. As 3CE previously mentioned, they are providing free assistance to get started with electrification through their concierge service. So we're going to go through each step of this process more in depth, but I wanted to show you what to expect from the concierge service. So the concierge service is a 5-step process where once you submit an application, we will be by your side from the first phone call to get an understanding of your goals, moving forward through a site walk, which lots of times it can actually be done virtually. And that's going to provide a feasibility report to you based on your site and your EV charging goals. And then we'll be able to be there to help you through bids, get to the installation of your chargers, and then all the way to applying for rebates. So the first step of the concierge service is going to be to submit an application. So in order to do this, you'll go to 3CE's website, 3cenergy.org, go to rebates and incentives, and then under commercial or agriculture rebates, under electrify your ride, you'll find the concierge tab that's highlighted there. This tab will have a form for you to fill out with information that's such as your contact information, the property address that you are looking to install chargers at, any information you can provide about your business and information on the future of the EV drivers that you're expecting to utilize these chargers. Are they going to be public or private? What's your timeline? Anything like that. So then once you submit an interest form, I will receive the form and I'll do a little quick research to verify that your property address is associated with the 3CE customer account. And so after that, I'll contact you for a short phone interview. And during this phone interview, I will be asking questions to get a better understanding of your goals for electrification, to get more information about your property. And then based on the goals, property timeline, we will be able to discuss which types of charging stations are available and a best fit for your site between level 2 chargers and DCFCs. So here on the slide, you'll see a general overview of a comparison of different types of charging stations. So the basics of the charging stations are that residential level 2 charging stations do not accept payment. Commercial level 2 can accept payment, and DCFCs do accept payment. So for commercial properties, we're going to be looking at those commercial level 2 and DCFCs. And the difference between these two would be the charging speed, with DCFCs being much faster, but needing a higher energy capacity and are much more expensive then.
So once we've completed that intake call and we understand what's going on and what your aims are and what you want to do, then it comes over to me. And what we're going to do is look at your property. And this might be another phone call, might be a couple of phone calls. It might be you sending me pictures, and it's a combination of Google Earth and sometimes me walking out there and looking at your property. We're looking for a bunch of different things, but what it really comes down to is what is the smartest place to put a charging station to meet your goals. So there isn't just one great place for a charging station. I can tell you that every place is a great place for a charging station, but we want to find the spot that makes sense for your budget, your aims, the people you want to attract, how you want to do this. Once we do this complete 360 look at your property, it might involve calling some other people too while I get a few other questions answered. We'll give you back a site report. And that report will look a little bit like this with the drawing. Here's what we think you should do. Here are some things that you need to do to get ready for this. And this is just about what we think it's going to cost. Now, I have to tell you, I'm not an electrician. I am not a general contractor. We do use that information, though, to look at those costs. Now, while we're out there evaluating, these are the things that we're looking at. We're looking at where your electricity is. Do you need to bring more? How far is it to run a trench or run the wires from your electrical supply to the parking spaces? We want to look at the smart way of charging these stations so that you're not blocking sidewalks or reducing the amount of travel space in the driveway. We stay on top of all of the state codes as well as federal codes, and federal ADA was passed just finally in November. So we make sure that whatever we're going to do is going to comply with those codes. We also pay a lot of attention to personal safety. Nobody is going to use the charging station if they aren't confident that they're safe while they're charging. And that can be well lit at night, visible from the street, some shading overhead or protection from the weather. And if you are in one of these areas that is walkable or out and about, we want to make sure that there are available amenities for the folks that you're trying to charge. So that may be that they can go to the barbershop or to a grocery store. It may be that it's the right amount of time for them to come into your business while they're charging. All of this factors into our report. Then we do that cost estimate. This is from a construction estimator calculator, as well as what we've seen with recent projects in the area. We update this every single time, and it just gives you that idea. Now you'll see on here, we have the different 3CE rebates for commercial account, but certainly those numbers might look a little different if we're working with a multifamily property, or we're working on multiple commercial properties. This at least gives you a target to shoot for. You know what we're talking about, and then you can decide where you're going to go from here. So some of our clients do self-installation. They have an electrician on staff who is certified to install charging stations. Some need to go outside the family to get these installed and done. So that would take us to our next step, which is to help you get bids. Now, I do want to tell you that we have some folks that come into the process already at the bid end. They know what they want. They have gone through the steps and they're just looking to make sure that they get a good bid from a trustworthy source, and it's something that we can validate. If not, we will refer you to electricians. And I'm going to tell you a little story about the Santa Barbara Air Pollution Control District, who signed a contract yesterday with their installer. They already knew what they want. They had some sketches. We talked together, we looked at it, we verified what they were doing. We talked a little about ADA requirements. Mary and I contacted 3 local electricians that we have experience with in the past. They worked with Santa Barbara APCD on getting them quotes. One of them was super flexible and gave them 6 quotes with different configurations and different models of charging stations. We reviewed all those quotes with them. We actually laid it out in a spreadsheet and compared apples to apples, gave them back our analysis of the quotes, and then they have moved forward and, like I said, signed that contract yesterday, and they're getting going with that. So we will make sure that you're getting what's right for your business and your budget as you look at these quotes. And then the end stage of I should also say, we will also work with you during installation. Sometimes installation can be a little tricky. Sometimes there's an unforeseen hurdle, and sometimes we know how to get around those. And so we'll work with you during that installation period as well. And then at the end of it, it's helping you apply for the rebates. The 3CE rebate is really the best game in town right now. There are some other incentives. Some might be from your local air district, a couple from the state of California. Most of those incentive programs have requirements, have trade-offs. Buy from a preferred vendor list, or you have to be able to accept payment, or it has to be located in a certain area and have data reporting. So we're just going to make sure that we're weighing all of the pros and cons of each one of those. Some rebates can be added to the 3CE rebate. Some incentives are on their own and you can't double down with anything else. We will also take a look at that during the bid process. So we're going to follow this part all the way along to make sure you're getting the right things. At the end of it, we're going to help you apply for the funding situation that works best for you. So let's move on to one of our success stories. And I have to say, we're still in the process with this one. It is Bright Future Solar Energy. So Bright Future submitted an application through the Electrify Your Ride program that Mary talked about, and we gave them a short phone call. We learned that they were in Salinas and had already received the vehicle rebate through the commercial program, but they were moving to a new office in Moss Landing. So Bright Solar wanted to install charging stations for their vehicles that they already had, but they also realized this was a location that was missing public charging and thought that their property could fill a gap by adding DC fast charging as well. We looked at this from all different sides of the coin to figure out how we could do this. And one of the funny things about this location is it was actually zoned as a school. And we needed to go back and work with the county to rezone it as a commercial property so we could even get on to the next step. We also recognized they were going to need more power than PG&E had brought there. So we connected those dots as well. They're working with PG&E right now to bring the power in. Mary and I just recently talked to them again, got caught up on where they are with their project, have redesigned a little bit about where we think should be installed, looked again at some other opportunities for them to leverage tax credits, other incentives, and then make sure that they are complying with these new ADA guidelines. So they are now in the process of getting their electricity installed. Then we're going to go back with them one more time and help them finish this project up. Bright Solar is a licensed installer of EV charging. They will be putting it in themselves. And so at the end of the project, we will just help them apply for the rebates that they are ready for and tax credits if they still exist. So I do want to just wrap up this little section with some of the questions we often get about charging at your business. Many businesses, particularly smaller businesses, we worked with a law clinic, a small yacht club, a private school, are really worried about dedicating one of their few parking spaces to EV charging. Some incentive programs require that you put up a sign that says EV charging only. That is not in any state code. So you can decide how you want to restrict the parking lot. The only thing that that state code requires is that you put a sign up somewhere that says this space has an EV charger. And we'll work with you on that and understanding how that works. How about fees for charging sessions? State of California says you charge by the kilowatt hour, but what you want to charge is what you want to charge. We can give you a comparison of what other similar businesses are charging in your region. We can help you figure out what to set to make sure that you're covering the cost of your electricity, plus a little bit more for maintenance. Then we always get questions about ADA. I'm not going to fool you, ADA is tricky. It kind of depends on a number of different factors. And we are going to make sure that you are meeting the ADA compliance as well as the rest of your parking lot as well. And then the last question we get is about maintaining the charging station. Most vendors, installers, or charging station vendors offer a maintenance package. That's where it really comes down to looking at the contract that you're signing or who you're agreeing with to make sure that you have maintenance and support in that contract. And you're well aware of what routine maintenance looks like. Go out and wipe off the screen. Do you need to pick up trash? Looking at the cord to make sure it's not frayed. We'll help you put together that kind of inspection checklist, as well as make sure that you're getting the support and maintenance that you need. So that was a lot of information in a really short amount of time. So I'm going to pass it over to Dominic, who is going to talk about next steps and then help lead us through some Q&A.
Great. Thank you, Chris. As Chris mentioned, if you are ready to start this journey, we have a QR code on this slide that you can scan that will help you get started and take you to our website at 3ce.org. We're really excited about this service that Frontier is offering alongside 3CE, and we really hope that a few of you go forward with this EV charger project you've dreamed of, and we can help make it a reality. If you want any more information on what you heard today, again, I mentioned that the slides and the recording will be posted on YouTube later on, and you can also contact info@3ce.org. Lastly, we want to take some questions. So I know we've had some questions funnel into the chat. If you have a question that is at the top of your mind related to anything related to EV charging and EV charging infrastructure or our concierge service, please let us know right now, and we have all the experts in the room to help you. I saw that we had one early on in the presentation that I wanted to save for this time. So something we got was asking about the typical timeline for this process. Chris, maybe you could talk about the timeline. Does the timeline change based on the number or size of the chargers? What are some considerations for people who are looking to maybe start a project but don't really know what the commitment is and what the timeline might be like?
Our typical timeline, and I use the word typical fleetingly because we really haven't had anything that's typical, is a few weeks from the time that we talk to you till the time that we can finish the evaluation, less than a month typically. However, we do run into all of these things. So we had one property where it's kind of weird that their building was older and a tree had grown up in front of their electric panel. You could not even open the panel door because the tree was so close to the panel. That took a little investigation to see if we were going to have to make some changes, move the tree, move the panel to be code compliant. And it took me like 3 weeks to get the answer. And guess what? They didn't have to move anything. The tree was okay. DC fast chargers typically take more time. They almost always require additional power from either SCE or PG&E, and just getting the answers that we need from the utility is on their timeline. So maybe with DCFC, we're talking a couple of months instead of less than a month. We really try to get these in quickly for you. But one of the things that Mary asks you at the very beginning is your timeline. And if you have a hard deadline, we're going to move heaven and earth to make sure that you're making that deadline.
Thank you, Chris. One other question I'm seeing in the chat earlier on from the presentation was related to a multifamily apartment who has solar. This customer claims that they want to pair chargers with solar. Can 3CE fund that too? Paige, I'm hoping you can help us out with that queue.
Yeah, thanks for that question. So while 3CE was able to fund those charger projects, we are not able to fund anything for the solar. However, we do offer some excellent MBT plans that will help you maximize your solar usage. But the biggest requirement if you're doing a paired project is that those chargers are still grid connected. So if you're building a mini microgrid, all the power to you. We can no longer fund that. But if you are still a 3C customer pulling from our grid, you'd be able to receive, again, up to that $8,000 for commercial property. And if you have any questions about eligibility or things like that, about this is my project, would I be able to get a rebate? Feel free to reach out to us and we're happy to help you along that in that process.
Thanks, Paige. I'm seeing multiple questions from an anonymous attendee. Chris, maybe you can help us out with maintenance contracts. This anonymous attendee asks, how much do maintenance contracts cost per year, and how long is the typical contract period?
All right. Well, I really hate it when people answer a question with it depends, but I'm going to have to say it depends. So the maintenance contract between a level 2 charging station and a DCFC is quite different. Most maintenance contracts are annual. They are a couple $100 for a level 2 charger. It will include remote monitoring, software updates, um, um, a look at replacing kind of commonly worn parts, which are typically the screen, the LED screen, if you have one with a screen. Those are going to last 5 or 6 years. They will go a little bit shorter if they are in direct sun. We've all seen a gas station screen that has been in the sun too long. So we typically advise that you're going to get that, you're going to pay that up front for 5 years, the maintenance contract. Maintenance also has support so that people can call in the middle of the night and say the charger isn't working instead of getting you out of bed. Those are a little bit more expensive for a DC fast charger. Some vendors also offer a parts contract, so you could pay a flat fee every month if you and know that that's covering parts. It's kind of like an insurance plan. If you're putting in one or two, you don't need that. If you're putting in a supercharger location with 8 or 10, let's talk about putting parts in there. How long does it cost for each type of EV charger to amortize? That kind of depends on how many people you have charging at it. Right now, we look at somewhere between 10 and 25% use rate in the Central Coast area, but we'll figure that out too. And that will be part of your implementation plan. So you know at what point have you covered the out-of-pocket costs and are you starting to generate revenue? I do want to mention a lot of the revenue is not a cost per charge, but it is the fact that you are bringing in a customer. And so if you have 10 customers a day, you put an EV charging in it, now suddenly gives you 12 customers a day. That could be revenue that's attributed to your charging station. Other ongoing costs outside of maintenance, if you are accepting credit cards, just like you have at your business, you will have a cost for processing the credit card transactions. Some charging companies wrap that into their monthly cost. For some, it's separate. We're going to look at that together. And what's the lifetime of a charger? You know, right now, most of the contracts that are going out are 10-year lifetime. We will, and I think that is pretty reasonable, that you should expect after 10 years there is enough of a technology change that it might be time to upgrade it, just like you occasionally upgrade your computer. Hope that answered all of those questions. Sorry, it's a lot of it depends. It depends. We're going to figure that out together.
Chris, I keep coming back to you, but you have such good knowledge, and I know you've dealt with these types of cases where the site infrastructure doesn't have the power to support several DCFC stations. Someone from our webinar is asking if their infrastructure does not have that power to support several DCF stations, do you have to go through PG&E? And how long would it take? Is there a cost estimation associated with this infrastructure upgrade?
Oh, once again, it depends. So PG&E, we have a great contact there, and they have some online maps that we can use and tell if there is extra power that's close by somewhere near. If it's somewhere near, they often just need to bring in another power pole for a DC fast charger. Charging does need to run off, DC fast charging needs to run off its own set of electric infrastructure. That is typically somewhere between $50,000 and $75,000 for them to bring power to that site, plus put in the materials that they need, the transformer, the meter that they need to make that work. In some cases, PG&E will pay for all or part of that cost, but that is very site dependent. In some cases, it will be solely up to you to pay that cost. But that is part of the feasibility that we're going to do. That's part of the analysis we're going to give you. We're working on some sites in San Luis Obispo right now that 3 of them are really clear cut. One of them is kind of a hot mess. And we are still working with PG&E to figure out there's some construction going on and power's being rerouted. So we are still trying to figure that one out. The PG&E, when they get down to the end of it, they require an engineering analysis that is $5,000 up front, and then they give it back to you when they've done the engineering analysis. But that is further down the pike on the project than what we're doing right now.
Thank you, Chris. I see a couple of eligibility questions related in the chat that Anna was able to answer, but I wanted to highlight it for everyone. Someone asked, do we need to be 3CE customers to utilize the concierge service? Yes, you do. You can verify your enrollment with 3CE by checking on your electric bill, or you could just reach out to us, and Anna has provided the information there. And then someone else has talking about multifamily apartments. The minimum number of units for that classifies a multifamily apartment is 5. 5 or more residential units for our rebate. That would be the eligibility. If not, you can look into residential rebates. And then someone else asked about the eligibility ending on September 30th, 2025. That's related to our concierge service. They ask, will the program reset on October 1st? And the answer is yes, the program will continue to be open and we will continue to accept applications for our next fiscal year. Going back to a few more questions. Let's take a question related to ownership over the charger. Chris, I'm hoping that you can talk to what ownership looks like, if it's the individual, if it's the commercial account user, or if it is maybe owned by someone else. Someone from our webinar asked, do we own the charger or is it owned by a third party?
In the 3CE rebate program in Electrify Your Ride, it is your charging station. If you want to hire somebody else to be an owner and operator, we can look and see what that looks like. But for the most part, we're talking about level 2 charging stations that your business would own and operate. Hope that could be a really specific question. Thank you for asking me one that doesn't start with it depends.
Of course. You know, in our industry, there's a lot of depending, but that one is a more straightforward answer. Another question for you, Chris, talking about carports and parking spaces. Someone asked, can each parking space in a row of apartment carports have a metered EV charger that is locked only for use by the tenant of the space?
So I went from an absolute to another, it depends. So whether you are in apartment carports, at an office building with assigned parking in a parking garage, in a public space. There are multiple software tools or RFID cards that can limit the availability of the charging to just that one person. Typically in an apartment building, it would be each charging station would be directly wired to that tenant's meter. So for instance, Paige showed that picture of an apartment building that had like a big gray box with lots of little meters on it. In most apartment buildings, every apartment has its own electric meter, and we would wire the EV charger directly into that meter. That's particularly true if it's assigned parking spaces. If it is not assigned parking spaces and you want to limit availability, let's take it away from a carport and talk about an office park or maybe a healthcare center where you want people to register their car with you. They would probably get an RFID tag or a special code that they could use on their phone that would activate the charger just for them and not make it available to others. I also want to mention we have deployed similar situations where it is open to the public employees customers during the day. At night, it's only available for that business's vehicles. Same thing. You set that up in the charging station software and you say who can use it, when they can use it, how long they can use it for, and even in those situations, charge different rates.
I hope that answers your question. Chris, I keep passing it back to you, but you are the expert when it comes to parking and curbside space and where these EV chargers and spaces have to be. So another question related to that, can curbside space be used or does it have to be off street?
So curbside space can be used, and there are a lot of interesting ways to put in curbside charging. However, you have to own the curb. And in most cities, it is the city that owns the curb, and therefore the city is the one who puts it in. So if you are on a privately owned street or in a privately owned office park and industrial park, we can certainly talk about that. There can also be some challenges with the curb, typically underneath a sidewalk. There's a lot of infrastructure running under there, water pipes, telecom cables, and so we have to make sure we're not interfering with other things under the curb. But curbside is a great option. Another way, if you own a parking lot with light poles that you yourself own, aren't owned by the utility, there's a great way to put in charging stations that tap into the light poles electricity. So it's a really unique way of doing that.
And then it looks like we have one more question right now that, Chris, I'm going to again pass your way. Just wanted to reach out to the audience. If you have any more questions, please let us know. We want to be respectful of your time, but we also want to answer as much as we can right now. So, Chris, this is related to pay format. Someone in the audience is asking, is there a standalone or national network? Can you talk more about what pay formats look like for EV charging stations?
And I'm assuming, Patrick, you mean uh, the way in which you're paying for use accessing the charging station. I'm going to give you more answer than you probably wanted. In California, charging is regulated as a fuel. It has all the same rules around it as a gas station or CNG station or anything else. And because it is regulated as a fuel, it has to accept commonly used forms of payment. The only thing that charging stations don't do is accept cash. And you may see that gas stations at the pump don't accept cash either. So you can use a credit card, you can tap to pay. A lot of the charging stations use apps now. That's how I mostly use it, is through apps that are tied to my credit card or to my bank account. We have also seen installations where they have issued like a Clipper card, kind of like the transit card. So you can use your Clipper card to get on BART, or you can use it to pay for charging at the BART station. But it is required as a standard format that works with all commonly accepted forms of payment. And I am sure if you put one somewhere and you could go inside and pay for cash and they could turn it on, that would work as well.
Thank you, Chris. I hope that answers your question. It looks like we are running out of questions, but we still have a little bit of more time. So want to ask the audience one more time, if there are any more questions, please let us know right now. If not, you will not have to forever hold your peace, because you can always reach out to us at info@3ce.org, but we hope that we can answer everything that's on your mind right now. I'll give another 30 seconds, and then if not, we'll wrap up.
Dominic, I know you are the question person. I do you just want to mention the question about, is it all DCFC or is it level two? I would say that most of the concierge customers over the last 3 years have been looking at level two. While we're certainly seeing more DCFC, I would say most of our customers are level two.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad you clarified that. Anna went ahead. Thank you for answering that, Anna. But that's good context, because a lot of our customers do come in and are just looking for level two, and that's great. And we want to support whatever project you have. And again, like you said, Chris, we do have more of a background, and I think most customers come in looking at level two chargers. Looks like we have actually two more questions. Let's have a look.
I think the first one we answered, each parking spot in a row of uh, for
Yep.
parking spaces in a row in a carport, an office park, a health club, whatever. Yes, you can limit access. The next question is about, can you put a 60 amp wire on a 50 amp plug? I would like to answer by starting saying I am not an electrician. However, what I know is that the circuit in your panel has to support 1.5 times the load. So my not an electrician answer to that question is no, you can't put a 60 amp wire on a 50 amp plug.
Thanks, Chris. And just wanted to give a reminder to whoever wrote that question. We do have rebates for EV readiness, and panel upgrades is something that would fall under that category. So if you are looking for a panel upgrade and realize that you might have to do so in order to get a charger on your property, we offer rebates and technical support to make that happen. Looks like we are out of questions. I'd like to thank everyone from the audience, whether you asked a question or not, for your attendance today and your participation. We just got past the Q&A, and I would invite you to stay connected. Here are our resources for how you can stay plugged into all things 3CE if you have any questions. Again, if you are interested in the concierge service, I would recommend you going to 3ce.org and filling out an intake form so we can talk to you soon about your EV charging project. If you have any other questions related to 3CE operations, if you're a customer, any other questions, again, here are our contact information. Our email is info@3ce.org. If you are a 3CE customer in the PG&E service territory, you can email us at northsupport@3ce.org. If you are a 3CE customer in SCE's service area, please email us at southsupport@3ce or 3ce.org with any questions that you have. Thank you.
Dominic, can
Yes,
I
Chris.
ask you a question?
I hope I can answer it.
How would someone know if they are a 3CE customer or not? Is that on their utility bill?
Yes, that's a great question, and it's something that we get asked every day. If you want to check to see if you are a 3CE customer, beyond calling us, you can very easily see at the top right-hand corner of your bill, it will say Central Coast Community Energy, and you'll see the bill will either be from PG&E or SCE, but you will see that there is our name alongside the bill. If there's any confusion related to that, we can easily check that. So please feel free to contact us. Our customer service number is 1-877-455-2223. But again, you should be able to see if you are a 3CE customer by checking your electricity bill that you get from either PG&E or SCE. I appreciate you asking that, Chris, because that's something we check. If you are applying for our concierge service, you do have to be a 3CE customer. If there are no other questions from the audience or from our panelists, I'd like to end our presentation by saying thank you so much again, and we really hope to see you soon, whether it is related to any 3CE operation, but especially if you are trying to install a EV charger on your commercial property. Thanks again, everyone. Bye-bye.